Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello, and welcome to the first of what I hope will be many Battletech battle reports. If you're not familiar with the game or the setting, I'm kind of confused as to why you'd watch a bat rep on it, but nevertheless. Battletech is a classic strategy board game from the 1980s, which is trying to make a comeback with this beautiful new box set released earlier this year, paired with the excellent PC game released last year by Harebrained Schemes. Set in the far future, where civilization is a shell of its former self, warring factions and opportunistic mercenary companies vie for dominance over thousands of colonized worlds. The lore has intrigue, drama, factions within factions, Machiavellian masterminds, and hard-boiled men of action, all with relatively hard sci-fi machines described with an attention to detail that borders on fetishized. Imagine if A Song of Ice and Fire made sweet, sweet love to 8th MS Team, and the whole thing was written by Tom Clancy, and you'd basically have Battletech. It's pulp adventure, it's political drama, it's full-on space opera, it's got something for everyone, and that something is big stompy robots blowing each other up. Anyway, all that is to say, it's a really fun game in a really cool setting, and we're gonna play some of it. Today's game is being held at the Rocket Republic Brewing Company in Madison, Alabama. It's a great hangout. They got some fantastic local brews and all sorts of different events throughout the week, including a game day every first and third Sunday for us nerds. If you're in the area, check them out. All cheap plugs aside, today we're running a demo game of the streamlined Alpha Strike rule set. This is a very stripped down and faster paced version of Battletech meant for players to be able to have larger scale battles in a shorter amount of time. In addition, we're adding a few house rules. First of all, we'll be playing on a classic style hex map. Alpha Strike is usually meant to be played on gridless terrain, but I prefer the hexes for two reasons. One, it reduces the amount of fiddling around and going, oh, was that 6 inches or 3/16? I don't know. And two, there are some things you just do because it's the right thing, damn it. You open the door for old ladies, you say your prayers, and you eat your vitamins, you stand for the national anthem, and by God, you play Battletech on a hex map like a real American! Also, we're using a version of the variable damage rule, where the damage values at short, medium, and long range are instead the number of attacks each mech gets in that range. This is to give the mechs a little longer lifespan, and to make the game feel a bit more like classic Battletech, where it was pretty rare that you'd hit with everything, but you were usually going to hit with at least something. And finally, we're implementing through armor criticals on a roll of 12 because I'm a D&D player, and I refuse to partake in a game where a maximum roll doesn't give you something cool. Will that come back to bite me later? Stay tuned to find out. Our teams today are the perennial rivals, Red Team and Blue Team. If you want to get into the lore, Red Team's paint job resembles the 17th Benjamin Regulars from House Kurita, and Blue Team looks like the 2nd Donegal Guards from House Steiner, but that was something I found out after the fact. Still, the Kuritas and Steiners practically never get along, so it works. Both teams consist of a single lance with one mech of each size category. For Red Team, the 17th Benjamin Regulars are bringing the ever-popular Locust 1V as their light, a Wolverine 6R for the medium, a Thunderbolt 5S as the heavy, and the always terrifying, awesome 8Q as their assault. Representing Blue Team, the 2nd Donegal Guards field a Steiner favorite, the Commando 2D as their light, a Shadowhawk 2D as their medium, my all-time favorite Intersphere mech, the Catapult C1 as their heavy, and the box art mech, the Battlemaster 1G as the assault. We roll for the game scenario, and we get a VIP capture mission. A Steiner noble has had his mech shot out from under him, carrying not just a high-ranking official, but critical intel towards the war effort. The 17th Benjamin Regulars are sent in to capture the noble so he can be interrogated and ransomed, while the Donegal Guards attempt to make the rescue. In order to capture the VIP, a mech must end its turn adjacent to the objective marker with no enemy units within close range, before returning to their home side with the VIP in tow. Alternately, either side can win simply by destroying the other side. Round 1, Blue Team wins the initiative. One by one, the units deploy onto the battlefield using buildings and terrain for cover. In hindsight, I really should have taken a couple of wide shots of the map so these close-ups have some context as to where everyone is in relation to each other, but, live and learn. During the combat phase, a couple of shots are traded at long range, but nothing connects. Moving on. Round 2. Blue Team wins initiative again. Red Team makes things interesting when the Wolverine uses its jump jets to clear the building it was using as cover and begins to advance on the objective. The Shadowhawk jumps as well, trying to line up a shot on the Wolverine. The Thunderbolt moves up to provide some backup to the Wolverine, and the Catapult jumps to the far side of the hill to provide fire support. The Awesome maneuvers inside of the objective, setting up a great lane of fire and just daring anybody to try and get into its sights. The Battlemaster ain't scared, though, and advances close to the objective. The Locust covers the Awesome's flank, countering the flanking maneuver that the Commando attempts. Combat phase! The Awesome draws first blood by putting a dent in the Battlemaster's armor, which is returned in kind when the catapult dings the Wolverine for 1. Everyone else whiffs, but don't worry, the damage is about to really amp up. Round 3, Blue Team wins initiative yet again. This time the Locust goes back to cover, and the Battlemaster reaches the objective, practically begging Red Team to say something about it. The Thunderbolt responds by moving up close, cornering a building so he can fire on the Battlemaster while being relatively safe from the catapult. Meanwhile, the Commando darts out into the open in an attempt to get behind the Awesome, but I miscalculated the distance and instead left the poor guy a sitting duck. This is a man who is seriously regretting his life choices. The Wolverine jumps right up to the Battlemaster to prevent him from capturing the objective, while the catapult opts not to move, which will improve his aim but also make him easier to hit. He's hoping the partial cover from that hill will make up for losing his target movement modifier. And rather than slug it out with the Battlemaster, the Awesome turns his guns on the poor exposed Commando, while the Shadowhawk moves in to try and save his little buddy. Combat phase. You see that? On the Commando right there? Yeah. That's a through armor crit. Specifically an MP hit which cuts the guy's movement speed in half, thus crippling the speedy mech. Meanwhile, the Thunderbolt and Wolverine rip into the catapult, nearly stripping it of its armor entirely. Blue Team returns fire, though, as the Commando and Shadowhawk put 2 hits on the Awesome. The catapult dings the Thunderbolt, and the Battlemaster lights up the Wolverine with 3 hits. Round 4. Red Team wins the initiative. The wounded Commando limps away from the Awesome, trying desperately to find some cover. The Thunderbolt repositions, staying just a hair's breadth outside of close range with the Battlemaster. Shadowhawk moves up to line up a shot on the Thunderbolt, and the Wolverine decides it doesn't really want to be in the Battlemaster's grill any longer and jumps away. Meanwhile, the Battlemaster stands its ground, hoping to capture the VIP and put some hurt on the Thunderbolt. The Locust stalks the Commando, hoping for the kill, while the catapult moves to join its buddies in shooting at the Thunderbolt. And finally, the Awesome turns its attention to the Shadowhawk. Combat phase. The Thunderbolt gets 2 hits on the catapult, digging into its internals and getting an MP crit, while the Awesome easily shreds the armor off of the Shadowhawk. In response, the Shadowhawk, Catapult, and Battlemaster all focus fire on the Thunderbolt, stripping the heavy mech of its armor. More importantly, with the Wolverine jumping away and the Thunderbolt just outside of close range, the Battlemaster captures the objective. Kind of. See, I didn't notice it until reviewing the pictures for the Bat Rep, but I think I screwed up. The Thunderbolt is 7 hexes away from the Battlemaster, which puts him out of close range of the mech, but it's only 6 hexes away from the objective. So in practice, the Battlemaster shouldn't be able to capture the VIP here, but we didn't notice it at the time. Lore-wise, I don't know, maybe the Steiner Noble had a jump pack or a grappling hook on him or something, which helped him escape. Regardless of whether or not the Battlemaster should have the VIP now, he does have the VIP, and we continue to play accordingly. All I can say is, my bad. Round 5, Red Team wins initiative again. Sensing his own impending doom, the Commando moves forward in a suicidal attempt at a backshot on the Awesome. The Thunderbolt moves behind cover, not wanting to risk more focus fire from Blue Team. The Battlemaster, now with the VIP in tow, begins to march off the field while the Wolverine jumps forward to try and challenge the assault mech before it's too late. The Shadowhawk jumps onto a hill to line up shots on Red Team, only for the Awesome to round the corner, dead set on inflicting more punishment. The catapult jumps on top of a nearby building, partially to get clear lines of fire on all potential targets, but also because I thought it looks cool. And finally, as the poor Commando watches the Awesome leave its line of fire, the Locust zips in behind him for the kill.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Sure enough, the Locust gets the first kill of the game, striking the Commando down. The Awesome gets a single internal hit on the Shadowhawk, resulting in a crit to the weapon systems. Meanwhile, the Commando gets one last hit on the Awesome before his demise, and the Battlemaster plinks off another point of armor off of the Wolverine. Oh, also, after the combat phase ended, I realized the catapult shouldn't have been able to jump on top of the building after taking that MP crit, so I moved him down to a lower level. I promised I'm not trying to cheat, I'm just stupid. Round 6, Blue Team wins the initiative. At this point, Red Team's commander decides that he's probably not going to be able to tag the Battlemaster before it can leave the field with the VIP, so he instead opts to make Blue Team's victory a costly one. The Wolverine gets face-to-face with the Battlemaster while the Catapult hops off of the building to try and fire on the Thunderbolt. Speaking of, the Thunderbolt advances, while the Shadowhawk moves to line up a shot on him. The Awesome bears down on the Shadowhawk looking for blood. The Battlemaster continues its march towards victory, while the Locust backs up the Awesome like the Grover Dill to his Scut Farkas. Combat phase. The Thunderbolt and Wolverine focus fire on the Catapult, with the Wolverine being the one who puts him down. Meanwhile, the Locust and Awesome absolutely ravage the Shadowhawk, getting 3 internal hits on it, 2 of which are crits. Meanwhile, the Catapult's last act on this mortal coil is to put 2 internal hits on the Thunderbolt, one of which results in a fire control crit, while the Shadowhawk gets 2 hits on the Awesome in an act of grim defiance before the inevitable. Round 7. Blue Team wins the initiative again. Outnumbering Blue Team 2-1 now, Red Team moves 2 of its units before Blue Team moves 1. The Thunderbolt advances on the Battlemaster, and the Wolverine once again gets right up in its face, and the Shadowhawk limps forward with basically no good options available now. The Awesome looms in front of him, but once again the Locust zips behind his quarry in the hopes of getting a second notch on his gun today. And I do mean gun singular, since in classic Battletech the Locust is running around with a single medium laser and then a pair of machine guns to fight infantry. Finally, the Battlemaster reaches the edge of the board. If Red Team can't bring him down by the end of this round, then Blue Team takes the game. Combat phase. The Locust once again backstabs his prey, killing the Shadowhawk and leaving the Battlemaster outnumbered 4-1. The Awesome, Wolverine, and Thunderbolt throw everything they've got at the Battlemaster, hoping for a through-armor critical, maybe a cockpit hit or an ammunition explosion, and they don't get one. The Battlemaster survives. He puts 2 hits into the Thunderbolt, resulting in a weapons hit, but not quite enough to bring the heavy mech down. It doesn't matter though, as the Battlemaster successfully escapes with a VIP. And that's it, Blue Team wins! Kind of. Again, looking back on the photo from round 4, the Battlemaster probably shouldn't have been able to capture the VIP with the Thunderbolt where it was, but neither of us caught it until after the fact. It's a bloody, costly, and dodgy win for the 2nd Donegal Guards, but a dodgy win is still a win, and we take those. The obvious choice for MVP of the game is the Battlemaster for securing the VIP and being the last man standing on his team, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Locust. This dinky little light mech, capable of only doing 1 point of damage even at close range, manages to get 2 kills and does so without so much as a scratch on its armor. I kinda wish this skirmish had been part of a larger campaign, because I think the aftermath of this fight is really interesting. The Steiners successfully rescued their endangered noble, but doing so cost them 3 good mechs. Those pilots were likely either captured or killed, and worse, the enemy could potentially salvage the downed mechs and use them against them. Meanwhile, the honor-bound Karitas come home without a single casualty, but empty-handed and defeated, even if only on a technicality. The dining hall of the 2nd Donegal Guards dropship will ring with cheers and solemn toasts to the victorious dead, while the 17th Benjamin Regulars, denied of their victory, sharpen their swords and jump into the sim pods, training for their next engagement. But all of that's another story for another day, hopefully. Thanks again to my opponent Chase for coming out to play, and to Rocket Republic for hosting. If you're in the Huntsville area and you want to give the game a try, hit me up. I've got tons of mechs and vehicles and whatnot already assembled and painted and ready to go. All you need to do is show up. Until then, remember, Mech Warriors, no guts, no galaxy.